Horror movies. Horror movies.
Come on down now.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. What's up? This
Hello.
is Insanity. Right off the bing bong.
Welcome to Insanity and welcome to Cinematic Shuffling. Let me get that hype up over there.
Wonk, wonk, wonk. How's it going, everybody? Good to see you.
This is Cinematic Shuffling. I'm Jason, and that is
Clay Tannick. How y'all doing?
Hey, guys, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast, you can't see anything right now, of course, but we are like decked out. We're wearing ruby slippers, golden dresses, and huge hair. Our hair is spiked up. It's truly insane. And for you guys who are watching on YouTube, well, you know we're practically full of shit. But that being said, guys, we what's been going on? We the last thing we put up was our Frogman review,
and it seems like forever ago. I missed you. I missed talking to you, buddy, and I missed our audience. It's good to be back with y'all. It's been a minute. No real reason. It's just life takes a minute. So we're back.
We're back for a little bit here. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure my stupid phone camera is
mine. This is as good as it gets, everybody. I'm fresh from the barber, though. I did that for you and for the viewing audience.
It looks good. I like the. Would you have kind of like the Hitler Youth going on back there? No,
well, not intentionally, but here, look at the top. Can you see the top?
It's not in the camera. I can see your neck, though. I saw your neck.
You only saw the neck. Hold on, let me see if I can do this.
Okay, yes, I see the top. I see the top.
Oh, it's very different story. So,
well, it looks good. We'll have to call you a monk soon.
Yeah, Friar Clay is
Friar
what
Clay,
I would be known as in these streets.
Clay, how the hell are you? What you been up to, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. We're just doing some crazy shit around here. We've been vending events. We vended this event. In case anyone doesn't know, my wife and I run this other side hustle called Damage Case Goods. If you want to look that up on Instagram, we have a store up. Basically make like plaques and resin epoxy plaques. We sell shirts and stuff. So we go vend these events. So we went to this event in LA called Blasphameet. And Blasphameet is a vendor space. It's kind of like this dodgy downtown area. It's kind of speakeasy where you have to have like the right directions to get to it. But it's a very all inclusive LGBTQ trans friendly community. Along with they had like there was drag queens, but they weren't the typical drag queens. In Blasphameet manner, they're dressed up in monstrous
cool
costumes and stuff like that, and so they were doing their whole thing, which is really cool. Met a lot of yeah. So we always meet a lot of great people at these events. Blasphameet's held like every 6 months or so. So there'll probably be another one in November. But we always have fun. Always, like you said, always find cool new things. There's great individual artists out there crafting their own designs, and artists who make prints and sell great horror related and other psycho weirdo art. So it's really kind of a cool place.
I love that kind of stuff, and I like going onto social media to see your photos of your little kiosk. It's awesome. It's like a heavy metal weirdo swap meet, and I say that in the kindest way. It looks like a lot of fun, and I look forward to going. I attend similar events here, but they aren't they're different. But yeah. I get all of the art on my walls is, for the most part, is from these kind of events. So yeah. I love that y'all are doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all our artwork. Well, yeah, these flags are bought from local vendors behind me. Of course, it's nice. It's not their original work, but it's bought from local vendors. And out in our main house, we have a bunch of artwork that we've purchased from great artists all over the place.
Cool.
So, yeah, I still have your comics too.
Nice,
encased and awesome, and the old H boys.
Yeah. Throw them at people. Throw them at the right person. You'll know them when you see them. Usually they're about 3 days sober. Really having a tough time. That's my audience.
But so that's what we've done. We've done this this weekend, and next weekend we're heading to Ventura, which is about a
Cool.
2.5 hour drive north from here, and we're going to vend this erotic bondage art event. So it's going to be very in your face sexual.
Have I shown you any of the pages that I'm working on from the Not Safe for Work comic book that I've been doing?
The only thing I've seen is the things you've posted either on Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, and that's the tamest stuff. Like, and I'm not trying to steal valor or anything, but it's just kind of like it's a, oh, I'm doing that also kind of moment.
Yeah. No, it'd be great. Oh, it'd be really rad. And this is kind of this isn't part of the podcast or anything, but maybe if you could like draw or give us a print of something that you've done, maybe we can put that on plaques and
cool,
and we can work out some kind of deal,
shit, man. Yeah, hell yeah. Give me some dimensions and I'll mock up something and we'll start making that money, that underground money. Cash is king, baby. When you come up to the table, if you ain't rocking that cash, just keep it on roll.
Guys, we need the cash. You need to come in and buy stuff and look at the videos because we really need to afford the fentanyl that's going. Or not.
I need that paper.
I meant the cocaine that we're using needs to be tested.
Oh yes, yeah.
That costs a lot.
YouTube.
But Clay, I guess we can head back onto tracks somewhat here. Other than what we've kind of got planned, what have you seen lately that has stood out, or in the horror genre, or not even horror, maybe horror, sci-fi, or thriller?
Okay, cool. Good question. I feel spoiled lately, honestly, when it comes to entertainment. Lately, and I admit we're kind of late to the party on this one, but we binged Them. Is that the right one? The MGM show, Them. We binged that. The first 2 seasons was friggin' epic. And and while being flawed, but that's always the caveat with anything that we're talking about. Like we embrace the flaws, and that was a good one.
So let's start at Them real quick because we're talking about the African American family that moves into an LA suburb. Or
I'm thinking the wrong I'm so sorry. I meant From.
Okay.
From, yeah, the MGM show starring that one dude and that other person, and it's got a whole lively cast of people that I have not Googled yet. But the basic send up is that it's a very Kingian premise of you can drive into the town, but you can't drive out. And all the people that are left in this creepy town are attacked nightly by vampire demons that can inhabit the shapes of their dead relatives and friends. Whoa. And say, let me in from the window.
Yeah.
And the only thing keeping them in the house is this little glyph that you put in the corner, and if it falls on the floor, they get in your house, or if you invite them in, you're dead. So that's the basic premise, and it goes from there. They have you watched
that? No, I haven't. When you said Them, I've only seen just diverting just 1 second here. I'm like 3 episodes into Them, which is on Amazon Prime, and it's so far it's really rough to watch. So
it wasn't as good as the movie, which I thought was excellent after I watched it twice.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even know there was a movie. But yeah, there's a series on Prime called Them, and it has 2 seasons. That's why I thought you were talking about. But anyways, that sounds like sounds like an amazing show. Actually, it's right up my goddamn alley. And you have to is it through Prime? You said it's through MGM, but can you get it?
Yeah, you can get it via Prime. That's how we got it.
Okay,
MGM
cool.
Plus. And like every other good American, what we do is we binge our show, dump it, and then go from there.
Right. Get that free trial.
Yeah, you do not let these jackals, these hyenas, these lepers get too much of your money. Make sure that you cancel that subscription. And that brings us to our sponsor. I'm kidding. We don't have one.
Thank you, Amazon, for your sponsorship. Okay, so that reminds me of another one that we had talked about briefly, which was Severance on Apple Plus. And when you mentioned that, yeah, if you had asked, if you had asked if I had seen Severance, and that was the main reason I got Apple Plus in the first place, was to
Nice.
watch that show, and I binged it within my 7-day free trial and immediately canceled my subscription after that. But I love the show. It was,
oh, dude,
yeah.
It was one of those shows that stands up to repeat, not viewings necessarily, but repeat analysis via YouTube videos. People that have really kind of dug into the lore, and it's fascinating because they give you enough to dig that deep into.
Yeah. There was oh my God, I started having an existential crisis when I was watching it, because at first you're thinking
those kind of shows will do it too.
Yeah. And just that if the writing's really well and the actors are prime, then you got a solid show on your hands. And that's what this show is. Because at the beginning I was like, oh, well, maybe this is kind of a cool concept. Then the concept is, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but this guy goes into work, and it has his memory is wiped every time he leaves work. So he goes into work, he has his memory wiped while he's working, so he doesn't remember any of his home life. And then when he leaves work, he has his memory wiped again, so he doesn't remember any of his work life, which is kind of this weird sci-fi, I would say Black Mirror-ish kind of concept of separate the total mental and physical separation of your mind from your work. And I imagine it's some kind of thing, some kind of a relieving catharsis for people, so that they don't have to worry about what's happening at work. But then it starts delving into some psychological aspects about, the true self and who you really are. And
it works on so many levels for me. And horror loves to live in this space, and some of my favorite horror does. And Severance, it might be being a little bit liberal with the premise to call it horror, but it definitely ventures in there. It's more comedy than horror. Like, the comedy helps you deal with the savage, horror premises of this. But it's this idea that this corporation that you work at you don't just work for it. It embodies you. It encapsulates you. There's no way out of it. And that's where the horror element works for me with stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. Where it does kind of do this. It does this fine line, but I think there's enough dread, and it does put you in a, like I said, it gave me anxiety as the series started ending, where you're really thinking about, the horror aspect of it, and would this be a good idea? And it's just, I'll let people figure that out if they see it. But
I mean, it's just, you start off the show wondering, why would anybody consent to this? And then as the show progresses, it kind of delves in more into the psychology of why the participants in Severance do. It's definitely a good show. And if you're going to get an Apple subscription, binge Silo after you binge Severance.
Okay. I need to check out Silo too, for sure. All right. So anything else that was on your plate?
I think that we both watched Baghead lately. Was a movie on Shudder. Is kind of like the we just have a perpetual subscription to Shudder. And if you like horror movies, it's a comforting one to kind of have on hand. And we both watched Baghead recently, which was a mixed Baghead.
A mixed Baghead. And I remember I was telling you that I wanted to see, based on like some average reviews. I wouldn't say they're glowing reviews from friends and acquaintances, but they said, oh, I saw Baghead, it wasn't too bad. And the Infested, is that the one, the French one?
Infested is basically contemporary French hip-hop culture arachnophobia is the way that I'd sum up that one.
So that's when I didn't get a chance to get around to watching, but I did check out Baghead. And I remember while I was watching it, I may have given you the false impression that it was giving Talk to Me vibes a little bit. And I only
I think that's accurate in a way.
Yeah, I meant it in the most kind of general sense, not because Talk to Me is obviously a superior film in every way, but there were still these arbitrary rules that had to be followed regarding the Baghead, the this creature that could bring back your dead relatives, and they could talk through this thing, but you can only do it for 2 minutes,
or that the creature takes control of the room, and you no longer have any control over this frightening witch ghost that you got. But yeah, no, I think that your comparison to Talk to Me is apt, because both of them kind of rely on this premise that the audience and the characters are all going to accept the supernatural quality of the plot device without a whole bunch of argument. That I think that horror has kind of decided that. I like that about it. There were other things that I didn't like about it. But I'm curious what your takeaway was.
Yeah, I mean, it started off promising for me because again, it started giving me that, because the atmosphere of the movie is really nice. It's a centrally located movie. It's in this old abandoned pub in England somewhere, and it really kind of gets that pall of being a used living environment that this girl inherits from her father. And I love that. I love that aspect. I love when horror movies really put a lot of that effort into the background and the sets. But there, when it started getting to the arbitrary rules of what was going on with the Baghead, and then the exposition dumps, it was like, okay, well, I remember I had just texted you about having the to talk to me vibes, and I felt like going back and retexting you. You know what? Don't get your hopes up about it.
Well, I mean, no, like I understand. I think that it did have that intention. Talk to Me did it way better, but I think that it's almost an unfair comparison in a way, because Talk to Me was like way more excellent than it had a right to be. Like the brothers that directed that are really onto something. Baghead had phenomenal cinematography. The score was pretty good. I watched Infested right after that, and the cinematography and the score of that kind of overshadowed the first one in a way. But I don't know. It's weird. Doesn't it seem like all contemporary horror directors went to the same exact school and studied under the exact same professor in a way, and color keyed their movie in the exact same way? Or there's this, and it sounds negative, and because it's not. I think that it was competently done, but it was predictable in so many ways, even visually.
Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head. I was even saying that it's like there were no real twists and turns. I kind of had a feeling where it was going, and usually we like to, when we rag on films that we do our watch throughs through, I like to try to predict the outcome. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm not going to say I'm gonna nail these things 100% of the time, but this one I did, and I was like, okay, well, I saw where this was going, but at the same time, there was a moment when they use a heavy use of CGI that
pulled me right out of it. That was my biggest problem with it, and it started right from the beginning. Now, my caveat with this is that I'm glad that we're not setting actors on fire anymore, because we've injured enough people. I mean, poor Kane Hodder, the guy that played Jason, was burned and then went back to get set on fire again on set. So we don't need to be lighting people on fire anymore. But I think the rule needs to be, it needs to look convincing, and it looks so fake. And it was right in the opening. The opening segment of the movie, the part that's supposed to pull you in, it reminded me of the contemporary Evil Dead, the one that Fede Alvarez did, but he did it so much better, and it was that was fake fire too, but you were a lot more convinced.
Right. When we're talking about the CGI, I just wonder, because there was practical effects used for the actor playing the Baghead.
Yeah, and I wish they just stayed that way the whole way.
I didn't understand why they, even the jump scare that you see where the CGI is used, it did not make any sense. Why couldn't you just have her, just approach and just be an actor and use whatever prosthetics they had on her at the time, or him, whoever's playing the part? But Yeah, that just threw me off, and I was like, it felt like the movie The Mask, where
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's eyes just pop out, his tongue lolls out, and
Oh yeah, like Pee Wee's Big Adventure with Large Marge.
I'm
Like
large. Yeah,
yeah, Tim Burton knows that you need to go overboard to be able to not, like terrify your adolescent audience. And they did that, but it's just like it's a horror movie. We're supposed to be scared.
yeah,
The rule of thumb for quite a while now, since the advent of CGI and the affordability of it, has been that if you use it in a horror movie, the fans are going to hate it, and we always do. If we can tell that it's CGI,
yeah.
if it looks like a post-production effect, we hate it, and it pulls us right out of the movie. And this did this right from the get-go, and it continued to do it every time. Like it mimicked movies that it couldn't approach, like
Right.
the Poltergeist face scene.
Yeah, most definitely. It pulled from these influences and then just kind of ruined them in a bit. So I'm not going to say the Baghead was a completely horrible film, that but it was a middling average one. But there are other things that had me confused, where after the 2 minutes the demon or witch lady is supposed to take over, but they always managed to leave the basement fine, and there are always 2 minutes over, yet they always managed to get out. Why didn't the witch lady follow them? Why, there's a lot of whys that were happening in my head.
Well, and the movie plays with one of the most well-trodden premises in horror moviedom, is the inheritance of a haunted place. That's where it starts. So you're like, all right, this is a very kind of boilerplate premise, and then you've got the lead character that refuses to leave, even though it's violently, aggressively haunted.
Right.
And so it deals with that right off the bat. So you're already weary as a horror fan a little bit. It sounds like we hate this way more than we did. I genuinely had a good time. I mean,
Yeah.
which this sounds, I know we always sound ironic and contradictory in that way. If somebody said, do you want to, like, I want to see a horror movie that's not too scary, what do you got? I'd tell them, like, okay, watch this one. At least you're not going to hate me for it. It's not going to get all deep in your subconscious.
Yeah, there's some cool there. Now let's we kind of rag on a little bit, and there's some things I could probably still rag on it story wise, but the cool things, the cool aspects of it, were maybe was the actual background of the Baghead herself.
Yeah, I like that.
And even though it was a big exposition dump, there was the way they told it was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. I would have loved to see, if they're at a bigger budget, some kind of flashback to what was actually happening, how Baghead became Baghead, but I realized the budget was pretty low and they couldn't go that far, so we couldn't actually see what happened to her. It was only described, so that I thought that was cool. So we have a background, we have a monster that's kind of fleshed out, unlike what's that clown?
I've never watched that all the way through, but anyway, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I like that they took the time to at least flesh out the monster in the flick, and also the way it got the memories from the dead people, so it could like absorb or pull their soul into its body, so they could talk to their loved one for their 2 minutes. It ingested whatever piece of heirloom that they had of the dead person. Like the one guy brings in a wedding ring, but when the Baghead eats it, it's his mother, and he's like, oh shit,
passed down.
Yeah, it was passed down.
Yeah.
So the actual ring was his mother's ring. So that's the spirit that appeared. So I like that aspect of it too, because I was even wondering about that, because it looked like an old ring. I was like, is it going to bring his fiance or wife back, or so?
Well, I mean, and to your original point about the predictability of it, and spoilers, whatever. I mean, you're the whatever. But like it was obvious from the get-go that this guy wasn't telling the whole story.
Yeah.
And the thing that he was hiding was the thing that I said out loud too. So, I don't
It's one of those things where it felt like the motivation of the guy just wasn't enough. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that again we may be heading spoiler territory here, but I know infidelity is shitty. But the way this guy, because that's what it was basically boiled down to, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like she was getting ready to leave him, and he wanted to know why. It's like, why would you want to be?
Yeah.
Oh my God, whatever. And it wasn't just a problem with him; it was a problem with the protagonist. Like, what compels her to stay in this horrible environment? I know she's poor. Okay, the setup is she's poor and she needs money. But it's like $2,000 to talk to a violent ghost, and you also have to contend with the overhead of running a bar. That sounds like a $2,000 is not that much money.
Yeah. There's two things though. I know she wasn't really running the bar because it was closed. I think it was permanently closed. But there was a small moment when she's signing those documents for the deed, and it's mentioned that she can't leave because she's now physically locked or psychically locked to the house somehow.
You got to read that legalese, people. Be careful. Your fingers are nitroglycerin.
And the guy who sold her, the what do they call the barrister?
They call him a counselor, I think, in England, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Lawyer.
The lawyer guy. And so it turns out that he's somehow involved in some kind of conspiracy, a Baghead conspiracy.
Yeah, it was unnecessary plot in a plot heavy. Like it was laden with plot, but it said very little. Yeah. Like it's one of these things where you say a lot of words to say a very little intellectually.
Right. Yeah. And then I know we're concentrating some good stuff, but now we're gonna give it back to the bad stuff.
I mean, it's horror movies should never take more than an hour 30 of your time because they're probably going to drop the ball a little bit at some point, and we accept it. I mean, I think that's one thing that we all accept as horror fans. But the one thing that you will make me resent you for is if you take up too much of my time in any movie that takes up, like, whether it's even a big budget one, like the same actress that played the protagonist in this was the human
Freya Allen.
Yeah. She was in the latest, Planet of the Apes movie, which was pretty fun. Yeah. Also 15 minutes too long.
She's also in The Witcher, the first and second.
Oh, is she? Which I've only watched like episode 1 and 2 of that. So.
Yeah. Well, you're not missing that much. So, but she's, I mean, I thought she was a great actor. I think she did a fine job. I was just kind of frustrated that she wasn't really doing that much. It felt like things were just happening because things were happening. It felt like she was just kind of reacting to the situation at hand, and she was kind of powerless. It felt like she was just powerless to do anything because the power had just so roped her in as far as that contract and linking her to the house that.
I mean, all the way back, the Amityville Horror was a little bit before our time, but it was still in our psyche a little bit because that was one of the first horror movies that our parents probably watched. And then you go to Poltergeist was the, kind of the important one that was in the zeitgeist for our generation. And then you go on to The Conjuring, whatever they have now. This through line is not leaving a place that's allowing you to leave. Like at least Evil Dead. Like there's a creek, there's nowhere else. You can either go back to the haunted cabin or you can take your chance in this. Like there's some, kind of overarching element keeping them in.
The best part, the best movie. Oh, I'm kind of freezing up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Yeah. Well, it looks like, oh, there I am. And now I'm like out of sync. Okay. So don't mind the out of sync that's going on here.
Looks fine on my end, but
it looks fine. Okay. Okay, on my end it looks like I'm going crazy here. So, but you bring up a great point about you can leave aspect. Now the movies that choose to leave and then the forces that make them stay are some of my favorites. When I think of that, I think of Event Horizon. They get on this salvage crew goes out, finds the Event Horizon, goes in, sees all things all fucked up. The who's the captain? Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
He watches this video playback of this intense orgy of flesh and blood,
Violence.
and he goes, "We're leaving," like that.
Yeah, we're leaving.
And I love that because any person in their rational mind would say the same thing. I'm not inspecting this. We can, just like Ripley in Alien says, let's nuke it from orbit,
Yeah, like our intention should be to leave, and $2,000 was the impetus for for our protagonist to stay in this waking nightmare.
I always like to see this. If I was thrust in a situation when if I knew something was living in my, I don't have a basement, but if something was living in my dryer, every time I open my dryer, it's this haunting thing that would come out and crawls. I'd be like,
there's a damn goblin in there. He's covered in dryer sheets.
I would not stay here. I'd gather the cats, gather my partner, and we'd leave and just sell everything.
Yeah, like why are you selling this place for $1,200? Like I just
just take it. No, but the movies that because obviously there's not going to be a movie if they just leave. But I will say that would be a great skit or something, where it's just like, we're leaving, the end. The credits roll.
I mean, like it would probably be a much more interesting plot progression if the if we're drip fed the occult stuff, the beyond stuff, but instead it's just all right in front, which I know that was an intentional narrative choice that they made, but it's like, all right, but you've slapped your genitals on the table. This is everything that you've got. It's all riding on the Baghead now, and you're gonna fuck it up at some point a little bit.
Oh my God. Well, I think we've expounded on Baghead enough. I don't even think the commenters or reviewers of other YouTube channels have expounded on this movie as much as we have.
No, not even close. Not even close.
But it was directed by Alberto Corredor and stars Freya Allen, Jeremy Irvine, and Ruby Barker. If you want to see Baghead, it is streaming on Shudder. And
you should see it. Like even though we just spent 30 plus minutes crapping on it, you should see it because it was fun and it delivered in some ways. But
you know what I would love?
What's
I would love if people see the film. I want people to see the film, and then if they disagree with us wholeheartedly, I want them to say that in the comments or write us an email or something.
Please.
Just saying, you guys are fucking stupid. This movie ruled, and here's why. And you list out those bullet points, and I would be happy to read all those comments for sure.
I would love it. Yeah,
and totally disagree and rip it apart on how you're wrong, but.
I would like that too, but no obligation, obviously.
Guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much. This has been another episode of Bits and Chunks. We just kind of shoot the shit, maybe talk about movies that we've seen and things that we've done over the weeks, and that's about it for this episode. Hopefully we'll be back maybe next week, if not next week, the week after next, to give you another killer movie breakdown, watch through, and review. So
yep, we'll be back soon. We appreciate it, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, later.
Peace.